Hi there, in this video I'm going to machine the crankshaft for the Howell V-twin. So this is a piece of leaded steel. I've put it in this 4-jaw chuck and centred it up and provided a bit of support with this fixed steady. So it's pretty close. So what I'm going to do first of all is to face off the end and then use a centre drill just to put a centre on. I'll do that off camera, but once I've done that I'll get back to you. Well, that all seemed to go to plan, so what I'm going to do now is turn this down to about 1 inch in diameter to a width of about 0.8 of an inch to allow this lathe dog to be attached. Well, this is taking some time. So I've turned this down just enough to get this lathe dog on to a later stage. So what I'm going to do now is to pull up the tailstock with a live centre on. And this is already just around 2 inches, so I'm just going to skim a few thou off it just to tidy it up. Alright. Okay, so off camera I reversed it in the 4-jaw chuck, put this fixed steady on, clocked it up so it's spot on, tidied this face up here and faced this end off here. So what I need to do now is to create a boss on here which will be 0.18 of an inch in depth, and it'll be a diameter of, let me see, 0.472 of an inch, so that's going to fit inside the bearing on the gear case like that. So as I'm machining this boss, I'll keep on checking that I get a decent fit. Blimey, this is going to take a while. Well, I think that'll be a pretty good fit. It's already partially on, and I think with a slight tap it'll go into the bearing. So I'm going to leave that for now. And what I'll do off camera is just take 1/8 thou off this face here up to a diameter of round about 1/2 inch, just to create a little bit of relief there. Once I've done that, I'll get back to you. Okay, so now there's a requirement to ream this to 3/8 of an inch. Now I've already centre drilled and drilled to a depth of 3/4 of an inch with a 1/4 of an inch drill bit. So now I'm going to use this 23/64 drill bit to drill 3/4 of an inch. Once I've done that, I'll ream it. So I think the idea is that this tail shaft will fit in here at some point. Just press in. And now I need to centre drill at the far end of this hole, and that'll enable me to turn the piece between centres. So now I need to drill and ream the hole for the crank pin, and I've put it between these two magnetic blocks and made sure it's perpendicular, which it is. So I'll use the coaxial indicator to get centred, and then we'll have a go at drilling and reaming. So I've offset the y-axis by 0.625 of an inch, and now I need to centre drill and then drill and ream 0.375 of an inch for the crank pin, and I'll go to a depth of 1.5 inches. That didn't work very well. Plan B. So I've just drilled through with a 1/4 of an inch drill bit, and now I'm going to go through with this 23/64. So now the idea is to cut the end off. Well, that's encouraging. It's exposed the centre drill hole. Okay, so I'm just going to clean this face up. Now I need to take 188 thou off this half. Now then, when I ordered this lump of metal from Metals for You, I asked for EN1A leaded, and I went to collect it, and it was a bit of a palaver, to be honest, because they hadn't cut it, so I had to wait around for it to be cut. And when they gave it to me, I thought it looked a bit bright, but anyway, I didn't say anything about it. And having got it back, it doesn't really cut like EN1A leaded. It's a bit heavy going, and after a bit of an email exchange with Metals for You, it appears that what they've done is they've sold me either EN16T or EN24T. Goodness knows what it is, but it's heavy going cutting it. But I'm persevering, and Metals for You are going to, well, they haven't even got any EN1A in at the moment, but when they do get some in, the guy, one of the guys, lives local, so he's going to drop a piece off for me. But anyway, like I say, I'm just going to crack on with this piece and see whether I can get it to, finish reasonably well. That sort of come out okay. And what I need to do now is to repeat exactly the same process on this end bit here. I've already faced it off, so I'll go back to the mill, put it in the 3-jaw chuck, and just take this edge off here, and I think recess it as well, but I'll do that off camera. Well, that's the other part machined, but very heavy going, and considering I've got to machine all this down, it's going to take me forever. And in the meantime, Metals for You have hand delivered that piece of leaded steel, and I tell you, you can actually feel the lead in that as opposed to this. That's very bright and hard. So what I've decided to do is I'm going to remachine these two bits using this piece of EN1A leaded. Once I've got back to this stage, I'll then get back to you. Well, it's about 2 months ago since I made these two parts, and due to bad weather, or the cold weather, I've only just got round to remachining these in leaded steel. Bit shorter, but it doesn't really matter because that was too long anyway. Now, what I was originally thinking was to use a lathe dog, but that wouldn't really work, so I've got another plan. So I've put this dead centre in the headstock, and I've turned the compound slide to 30 degrees, so I'm just going to sort of recut it just to make sure it's dead centre. So my plan is to put a faceplate on here and turn it between centres, but I've got a problem because this end is quite a few thou out, so it's the centre is off centre. Now what I've tried doing is trying to recentre it, but I think once you've got a centre in there that's slightly off, it's very, very difficult to do. So I think what I'm going to have to do is to cut it out, Loctite something in place and then recentre. Ironically, the part I originally made is perfect. So I've recentered on the mill using this 3-jaw chuck and the coaxial indicator. So I've got an 11mm slot drill and I'm going to cut to a depth of 9mm. Well, I've just realised I've totally destroyed this part, because bearing in mind there's going to be a shaft at this other side which is a diameter of half an inch, so that's that's half an inch, so there's going to be no meat left on it. Even if I plug it, it's going to be a weak spot, so that's scrap. Well, I've messed up big time here. It's far too heavy going with that original piece of metal, whatever it is. So I've decided I'll have to make another one out of leaded steel. Fortunately, I've got a piece, so I'll have another go and I'll get back to you where I was before this calamity started. Okay, so this is my third attempt, and I've followed exactly the same process as I did for the first one. So I've got these two pieces here. I've put the main part between centres. I tidied this centre up before using it, and that looks pretty close. Move it in a bit. That looks pretty good too. And I'm driving it using these sort of pieces of metal just against that face there. So the idea first of all, I think, is to reduce this down to a diameter of half an inch. So I think the only way I can get into this is to angle the compound slide like that, and I've touched the tool on this face here, and I would need to withdraw it by half an inch, or just a bit more than half an inch, so I can clean the face off. So I'll probably move it out half an inch plus maybe 5 thou using this dial here. One, 2, 3, 4, 5 plus 5 thou. I've got a carriage stop. You can't see it, but there's a carriage stop down here, so I'll set that. So I reckon that's 5 thou, bigger than half an inch. So it's just a matter of proceeding to cut, really. it's certainly taking some time, and it's started to break through this crank pin hole here. And I've just adjusted my depth stop because I realised there's a boss to be put on here, an eighth thou boss. So I've made the depth stop 520 thou from that front face. That should be good enough. Okay, so I've just run the fine feed down here to get a nice finish, and this is coming in at just over 980 thou. Now my target is half an inch, so 500 thou, so it's 480 thou to come off. So I'll continue machining this down until I get close to that measurement. Okay, so I've got it to 70 thou in diameter, but I'm struggling getting this tool further in to get it down to half an inch in diameter. Now this end piece here, this needs to be turned down to 0.374 of an inch in diameter to be threaded, and it's for a length of 0.475 of an inch, around about there. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to swap the tool. I'm going to put parting tool in here to try and get it down to that diameter, and we'll see how we get on after that. This is probably a bit of a crude method, but it seems to work alright. Well, that method seems to have worked out really well. Now I still can't get in with this tool, so I'm going to use exactly the same method. So this area here, for a length of 0.95 of an inch, that needs to be turned down to a diameter of 0.437. Well, that turned out really well. That's going to take a collet later on, a homemade collet, and I've just measured this and it's 0.7 of an inch in diameter. That needs to come down to 0.5 of an inch for the total length here. I've reset the carriage stop. So yeah, it's just a matter of turning this down to half an inch so it can take the bearings. Now I'm getting quite close to half an inch in diameter, so I've just put a new insert in and I'm just going to do a fine feed cut just to see what the dimension is. Well, I've just got 20 thou to go. I've just done another little test cut there, and it's coming at 1.5 thou over. So I'll just move the cross slide in a little bit more and try again. Three-tenths of a thou over. So I think what I'll do is I'll cut the full length at that setting, and then I'll probably use a little bit of emery just to get it down to be spot on 1/2 inch. Spring cut might make a difference as well. Well, I've just realised I've goofed up a little bit here, because I was measuring from this edge here to 1/2 inch out, but it should have been from that edge here to 1/2 inch out. So the width from this face here should be 0.312 of an inch, plus with a boss of 8 thou, that makes it 0.32 of an inch. So I've set the cutter now at 0.32 of an inch, set the end stop. So what I need to do is to get rid of that material there. And then reduce these by the same amount. With a pain really. Hey ho, you live and learn. Spot on 1/2 inch. Well, finally, those are the two pieces. This end here needs to be threaded 3/8 B24 UNC, I think, but I've not got a die for that at the moment. It's something I'll have to get hold of and do that later. It's not really a problem. And the idea is that there'll be a crank pin, obviously not this length, which will join the two pieces at some stage, because obviously this will be the big end that needs to be assembled, something like that. Well, I don't know. I think it's the first time it's ever taken me 3 attempts to actually make a component. Don't know what was going on there, but I got there in the end, and I think I'm pretty happy with the result. Hopefully it'll run nice and straight. Even the better news is I managed to get through my motorcycle CBT yesterday, so onwards and upwards in terms of trying to get my full motorcycle licence so I can drive this little BSA Bantam around. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope to see you later.